Recently I made a reaction to the video Canadians Change When They Hear the Word War. It gave me a great insight into the Canadian military, but it also gave me a further insight into Canadian military professionals, the soldiers themselves, and I learned about their amazing bravery, ingenuity, and just their sheer fighting spirit. Being from the UK and having Canada as an ally is just something I appreciate so much. Such an amazing military. With that video, I actually learned about military professionals, a couple of them, briefly learned about their story, and I want to further educate myself on these people. One of them was Leo Major, and a lot of people asked me to watch this video. It's called The One-Eyed Scout Who Liberated a Whole Town by Himself, and of course on that video I learned briefly about that. I want to learn more about him, his story, his conquests, what he actually did. So let's do that now.
Leo Major, the one-eyed scout who liberated a whole town by himself.
I mean, that's just a
World
great
War II.
line.
In World War II, for the Canadian effort, one soldier stands out from all the rest: Leo Major. He was a French-Canadian from Montreal, Canada. In 1940, at the age of 19, he joined the Le Régiment de la Chaudière of the Canadian Army. Their insignia underlines their fierce fighting reputation, consisting of 2 crossed Vickers machine guns with a beaver above supporting fleur-de-lis. Private Leo Major first saw action at D-Day in France, taking part in the Normandy landings on June 6, 1944. Straight away, he distinguished himself as a scout behind enemy lines by capturing the German communications half-track, full of secret code books. He then forced the captured crew to drive the Hanomag towards friendly lines, but was fired upon with anti-tank guns by British and Canadian troops. Leo had to climb on top of the vehicle to get them to stop firing as they drove closer, and later remarked how happy he was that the British and Canadian soldiers didn't know how to shoot.
Dissing his own allies, but that already you can see the incredible ingenuity and bravery. He made it behind enemy lines, captured that vehicle. Can you imagine that image of a man standing on that vehicle going towards his own allies being shot at? He's only 19 years old and he's in this situation. Can you imagine 19-year-olds today? I mean, I don't want to sound too old myself, but how easy they have it compared to a man like this.
When the English officer asked Leo to hand over the Hanomag, Leo refused outright, stating that it was a Quebec man who captured it, and so it was handed over to the Chaudière Regiment.
That's fair enough, that's true.
His war was nearly cut short when a few days later he was scouting ahead of his unit. Leo unexpectedly encountered a patrolling elite Waffen-SS unit. In the ensuing firefight, he managed to kill 4 of the enemy soldiers, but one of them, fatally wounded, managed to throw a phosphorus grenade, and Leo was hit, damaging his left eye badly.
Okay.
Leo was then sent to a field hospital for treatment. Leo had to wear an eye patch while his eye healed, and he remarked on how he looked like a pirate.
Can you imagine? Already he's shown in this incredibly terrifying situation of war, the humour that he had to say about being a pirate or that the Canadian and British couldn't shoot properly. This man was just built to be a soldier, but imagine losing your eyesight in such a horrible way, man, like a phosphorus grenade. It's something that's so raw, man. And I mean, he lost his eye. We've still got a long way to go, or lost his vision. He still clearly had things to do in the war with one eye. That just is sheer determination.
Remarkably, he refused to be sent home, stating that he only needed one good eye to aim a rifle. Quickly, he returned to the front line and continued to act as a scout and sniper for his unit.
A strong mentality, unbelievable mentality.
Shortly after returning to active service in October 1944, he was involved in the month-long Battle of the Scheldt in Holland, which involved much heavy fighting and several amphibious landings. One day during this prolonged battle, Leo's commanding officer had ordered him to find the 50 zombies who had gone missing on patrol earlier. Zombie was a slang term used by Canadian volunteers for unenthusiastic, inexperienced Canadian conscripts in the war.
Interesting, I never knew that.
Leo was carrying out the reconnaissance by himself, as always wearing PT sneakers instead of heavy boots. He was deep behind enemy lines in the dark, in freezing cold rain, muttering to himself, "I am frozen and wet because of you. so you will pay.
Jeez.
Drenched to the skin while not finding the zombies, he did come across a garrison of German regular troops, sleeping in trenches that they had been digging all day. Noticing a snoring German officer, Leo woke him up, pointing his Sten gun at him, and then motioned him to order his men to follow him.
That's it.
One soldier
Ingenuity.
raised his rifle and was shot dead by Leo, followed by 3 others who joined the firefight. After this, he shouted, "Achtung!" and "Handen hoch!" and the garrison quickly decided to surrender to him.
Jeez.
He then single-handedly marched 93 German soldiers back to the Allied lines. But on the way there, they were attacked by Waffen-SS troops manning an artillery battery from a neighboring village, who were infuriated that their fellow countrymen were surrendering. This left a lasting impression on Leo. The Waffen-SS unit managed to kill and injure a number of the German prisoners before being driven off by an Allied Sherman tank. Leo then handed over 93 German prisoners to his speechless commander. For his act of bravery, Leo was awarded the Distinguished Conduct Medal.
That is, imagine that image to begin with at the start of that situation. He's walking through this town with an eye patch, a machine gun, and sneakers. He's like Rambo. This is like an action hero, man. This is just so not normal, but he's like owning the situation. But he's walking through there trying to find his countrymen, but what he doesn't come across them. He comes across enemies, and a lot of enemies, a huge amount. Now, most normal soldiers are, I don't know, maybe not most, but a large number of normal soldiers might just be like, okay, I'm outnumbered here, I have to go back and get backup, and they'll just go the other way. He went straight into the danger. He used that ingenuity to just pick out the commanding officer, I think, and take him, and then he captured 93 people. That's absolutely mental to think about. Like, one man in there with his sneakers on, capturing 93 opposition enemies, man. And he's awarded a medal for that.
Which is the second highest award in the British and Commonwealth, the Victoria Cross being the only one higher. But surprisingly, he declined the medal, feeling the British commander, General Montgomery, who was going to present him with the award, was incompetent and therefore in no position to give him that medal.
And I mean, that's just integrity. He has a belief. He turned down the glory of getting that medal because he thought the guy was incompetent, which is fair enough. But that's huge integrity.
In February 1945, as his unit was fighting in the Rhineland in Germany, the Bren gun carrier he was traveling in hit a mine, wrecking the vehicle and killing all its occupants, except Leo. He was severely injured, including 2 badly broken ankles, 4 ribs, and his back in 3 places.
He's unstoppable.
Leo again refused to be shipped back home, and after a short spell in a Belgian hospital, he returned to his unit in time for their final attack to clear Holland of the last of its German occupiers.
The vehicle he was in, everybody else died. He almost died, and he still went back for more. This is a fascinating story, but one that's actually very inspirational. I want to know, how is he remembered in Canada? People have told me he is remembered. I want to know exactly how he's celebrated. I want to know how he's celebrated in the UK. Canada being one of our strongest and closest allies, we should be celebrating this man for sure. An absolute hero. Like, even if you're not interested in military, just to learn about his mentality, him as a person is, as I said, very inspirational. This is the story that should be taught to young people.
So, on April 13th, 1945, the Allies were preparing to attack the large Dutch town of Zwolle, but were unsure of the strength or deployment of the German forces in the town. That evening, Leo and his friend Corporal Willie Arsenault volunteered to carry out a recon of the area. The city was planned to be bombed by Allied artillery, and this is something Leo and Willie wanted to prevent. When the two approached the outskirts of the silent town, the Germans spotted Willie after his grenade bag made a rattling noise, and he was killed by enemy machine gun fire. Leo took 2 of them out, but the others fled in a vehicle. He then took his friend's Sten gun, an extra bag of grenades, then laid his lifeless body on the side. So enraged was Leo that he would go on a one-man rampage that lasted the whole night, using his submachine gun and bags full of grenades. He hijacked a nearby German scout car, disarming the driver and taking his MP-40, adding a third submachine gun to his inventory. Leo made him drive to a hotel, then entered a bar. There, he disarmed a German officer who could speak French to Leo, and he made him aware that the town was to be bombed by Canadian artillery, which would result in German military and civilian casualties. The officer understood, and in good faith, Leo handed him back his pistol, allowing him to drive off in the hopes that he would evacuate his troops rather than rally an attack.
That bravery again.
Leo moved around the town for a few hours in the dead of night, firing on any German units he came up against, throwing grenades and making as much noise around town as possible. His idea was to confuse the enemy into believing that they were under attack by a far larger Allied force storming the city.
He is a one-man army. He's running about on a rampage. These enemy soldiers think that's more than one person. It's one man running about, just shooting all over the place, scaring so many people. But when you see him talking to that higher ranking officer, you can see he has great intelligence, that he's going straight for those high ranking officers to try and manipulate the situation in his favour. Also what he wants to achieve, but also he's just running about doing things like this. He's like so intelligent, but he's actually executing his plans very well as well.
He proceeded in killing or capturing German defenders as he moved from street to street, using the local river and church as reference points so as not to get lost.
Very smart.
Every time he had enough prisoners, normally between 8 to 10, he would march them back to the Allied lines and drop them off, before returning to the town to carry on his one-man assault.
Come on, man. He's capturing groups of 10 soldiers, 10 men on his own, going back for more. He's like insatiable, man. He's persistent. He just wants to like do this all himself. They mentioned this was in Zwolle. How is he remembered in Zwolle as well? Is he like a hero there?
He is reckoned to have done this around 10 times. 4 times in the night he had to force his way into civilian houses to rest. Although terrified by his initial appearance, once they understood he was Canadian, they looked after Leo. During his rampage, he also attacked and set light to the Gestapo headquarters, further adding to the confusion. Then, finding the SS headquarters, he engaged in a firefight, killing 4 SS officers inside. Then, later, Leo came across a group of townsmen by chance. This included a local policeman by the name of Frit Kuiper. All of these men were secretly members of the Dutch resistance. Leo then explained to them that the town was liberated. Then the group went on to take the town hall and bring the civilians out onto the streets. By 4:30 a.m., the German garrison had fled the town, and Leo had single-handedly liberated Zwolle.
That is utterly amazing. What a story. Liberated the town by himself, but to hear the detail of it, how he's marching groups of 10 soldiers out and having breaks here and there and going again just non-stop on his own. Liberated a town by himself. I seen people mention on the previous video about his life could be a movie. Why is there not a movie of this man's life yet? Or maybe there has been. Has there been a movie about him? There has to be one, man.
Leo retrieved his friend Willie Arsenal's body and returned to his unit, who had yet to advance into the town. On that morning of April 14th, the Allied forces entered the town without a shot being fired and without the loss of civilian life from the planned bombardment, due to Leo's outstanding bravery the previous night. For his heroism above and beyond the call of duty, he was again awarded the Distinguished Conduct Medal, and this time he accepted it. After the war, Leo left the army and returned to civilian life to resume his old job as a pipe fitter.
See, when you hear that, he returned to his life as a pipe fitter. See, when you think about people who are so well known today, these celebrities and people in the public eye who are famous for nothing, and you see a guy like this who lived such a insane life but brought so much good to the world. These are the people that should be known, that should be popular, should be known in popular culture, man. I never knew about him, but I'm happy to be learning about him now.
With the start of the Korean War in 1950, the Canadian Army joined the United Nations forces in fighting the Communist Chinese and North Korean invasion of South Korea. Leo, though only 29 years old, was seen as a veteran with a special skill set and was recruited to rejoin the army and become a member of a special scout and sniper team.
Well, we went to the
Then, in
Korean War
November
as well.
1951, the Communists attempted to take some strategic important high ground just 40 miles away from Seoul, the South Korean capital. The fighting was based around the vitally important Hill 355, nicknamed Little Gibraltar, and Hill 277. Chinese troops had captured it from the Americans, and Leo was to recapture and hold the hill. The fighting raged for days, and the Canadian commander, Lieutenant Colonel Jacques Dextraz, declared, "In the event the battalion is attacked, there will be no withdrawal, no platoons overrun, and no panics." During the battle, Leo commanded a unit of around 18 men, repelling whole Chinese divisions while enduring heavy artillery and mortar barrages for 3 days. Even though Leo had been ordered to retreat when the Chinese divisions counterattacked, he refused. Instead, he demanded that the commander of the mortar platoon, Captain Charlie Forbes, rain mortar fire on the enemy. The mortar fire was so close to Leo's position that the commander could hear the bombs explode when Leo spoke on his radio. And it was so intense that the mortar barrels warped from their rate of fire. For his valor and leadership under fire, Leo was awarded another Distinguished Conduct Medal for capturing and holding the key hill. Leo was the only Canadian to win the Distinguished Conduct Medal in 2 separate wars.
Very
He
well
lived a
deserved
quiet life afterwards, and in 2008, at the age of 87, passed away,
Well, he lived
having
such
been
a
married
long
for
life.
57 years and having
Wow.
4 children.
His children must be so proud to have a father like that lived. What is this? Is this a street sign? Maybe this is a street sign in Zwolle, maybe? Leo Major Lahan. Oh, absolutely blown away by his story, his bravery, things I mentioned at the beginning: bravery, ingenuity, and fighting spirit. He had that in absolute abundance. I need to see a movie of his life. You need to bring this guy's life to life for the future generations to appreciate and see what he actually went through. That he lived such a long life and had such a long marriage is testament to the actual man he was as well. Just an amazing human being. Someone I think we can all learn from, we can take inspiration from. Especially people in Canada must be so proud to have a soldier like him representing your military. Somebody who really encapsulates the Canadian military from what I've learned so far. And fantastic story. Tell me what you think about this one. Thanks.